Getting the top grades isn't all about cramming in the facts. You obviously need to understand the material too. Some people feel like they can get away with this, just cramming in the content last minute. Okay, you can scrape through your GCSEs by doing that, but at A level, you simply cannot. I feel like any time is a good time to stop cramming content. I know I said you can get through your GCSEs by doing this, but if you do have your GCSEs quite soon, then I would recommend learning how to understand and memorize things properly, because that will help you later down the line in your A levels and in your university studies as well. The reason why people are more pulled and more inclined to cramming in content at the last minute is because they simply can't be bothered to do it properly. It's because of the time commitment to do those things well. They often believe that it simply will just take too long and they'd rather do a lot of other things less important and it won't give them results, but they'd just rather do those other things because they're more fun now. But the thing is, memorizing and understanding content does take a fair amount of time. So how do you do this effectively? How do you balance memorizing and deep learning whilst not also wasting a ton of hours studying? The answer to this is progressive overload, and this is something that I'll explain towards the end of this video. But first, I'm going to be showing you the strategies that I use to both understand content, then to memorize content quickly and effectively. So just to summarize before we begin, we have 3 different strategies here. 1 to understand content, 1 to memorize content, then the idea of progressive overload to make it very quick and effective. The first strategy is all about understanding content, and you'll come to realize that all of these strategies are quite repetitive, and that's what makes them really, really simple to follow. So let's say you have a subject you're going to write for, let's say you have physics, and you want to understand all of the content within physics well, because you know that when you understand the content, you can go on and answer most exam questions possible. The way that I go about this is converting the specification into long form but very concise notes. The specification details all of the content that could possibly be asked in your exam. So that's of course the place where you should start, because they can't ask you anything that's not on that specification. From there, you should rank the topics on the specification from hardest to easiest. And when it comes to understanding the content, you should go and start by trying to figure out and understand the hardest thing, or the thing that you perceive to be the hardest thing. So how are we going to go from this specification or the hardest topic within that spec to the long form notes that I was speaking about? The way you go about doing this is by reading every single point on that specification and not moving on until you understand the previous one. That's probably quite common sense, but it's not something that a lot of people do for some reason. They often feel that because they can understand most things on the specification is fine. They don't actually find the topic that hard. But what about the 2 or 3 bullet points which have some significant detail in there that you don't understand? It should be obvious that if you don't understand just a few things on the specification within that topic, you can't answer any question on that topic, and that's not ideal for your exams. As soon as you get to something that you don't know, don't skip it. Instead, go and research things about it. Look back at your school notes. Go on the internet, go and watch YouTube. There's lots of GCSE and A-level YouTubers specifically focusing on content to go and help you there. You might even have a textbook, and textbooks are often designed by the specification as well. So Horizon textbook may have all the details that you do really need, but it's important to first start with the spec and not from the textbook or anything else. Starting with what you need to know and going to find all the information for it is the best possible place to do it, so you know for a fact that you're covering every single piece of information. By the time you have completed your long form notes, as I said before, that is a signal or just a milestone that you fully understood the topic. But the thing is, you can understand the topic now, but you may not be able to remember or fully understand the same topic to the same amount of detail 3 months down the line in the future. So this final step to understanding is to bridge the gap between understanding and memorizing by making flashcards. Sometimes it may not be necessary. You may just simply remember all of these things because it's quite self-evident that once you know a few things on the spec, it's very difficult to forget, and from there you can draw out all of the other details and pieces of information that you do really need. Other times, especially for written subjects, I'll find myself forgetting things, not really remembering them further down the line. So that's why flashcards are important. They are absolutely crucial to my memorization framework that I've got later on. But how do you make flashcards effectively? You, once again, now looking at your long form notes, you go through your notes, write a question on one side referring to the notes, and then the answer on the other side. Because I take philosophy at A level, I need to use flashcards all the time because it's not really one or two word answers. In fact, it could just be my own viewpoint, which I've forgotten, or even just longer arguments that I need to learn word for word. So that's why flashcards are important. I can't really remember or take in that information if I've just written it down in long form notes, but taking something where I can read the prompt, read the answer, then correct myself in the memorization framework, that's why flashcards are useful. So from your long form notes, you need to try your best to make as effective as possible good enough flashcards. So just to complete the understanding section or little process, go through your specification, rank hardest to easiest, start with the hardest topic and make long form notes from there. And from your long form notes, you make flashcards which are quite concise as well. The memorization process is the next part, and that's all about using these flashcards effectively. The way that I do this is that I often have very minimal writing on the front of the card, which is the prompt, and on the back of the card, I have a lot more writing to do with that prompt on the front. So the way that I do use these flashcards to revise is that I read the front of the card, I physically write down what I believe is on the back of the card. I read the back of the card, then I mark the work that I've done. If I get it correct or correct enough, I'll put that in one pile. If I don't get it correct enough or I get it completely wrong, I'll put it in a wrong pile. So I've got the process of going through cards and then organizing them by the things I do know and by the things I don't know. From there, you repeat the process again with the cards in the wrong pile. So you take the pile which you got wrong, you keep repeating that until you get every card in the right pile and none in the wrong pile. Then you go through the correct pile again. And once I can firmly say that I can remember everything on the back of these cards, given the prompt, then I've deemed that revision session to be complete. But the thing is, at first, this may take forever. It may take a really long while to get through all the cards you need to get through. So the final strategy that I do have is a bit of reassurance and a bit of a switch of mindset to do a progressive overload. I took this term from the gym and weightlifting. Progressive overload is all about progressively, I shouldn't use progressively in my description. It's all about continually doing heavier or more so you get better at them and more resistant to it. So let's say that in the gym, you need to bench press 50 kilos and you want to get up to 80. You can't do 80 straight away. You're not good enough or you're not strong enough, but you can probably do 52.5 or 55. And over maybe a month or 2 months or 3 months, you can get up to 77.5 and now 80. That's what progressive overload is. You're progressively doing more things so you get better at them. How can you apply this to your memorization framework? Let's say in half an hour you can only ever get through 10 flashcards fully. In the future, when you get faster, you can probably do 15, maybe 20, but that comes with practice. Every single session, what I want you to do is to increase the number of cards in your pile until you get to a point where you can do maybe 30 cards in half an hour, 40 cards in half an hour, probably not 40, but once you can do maybe 30 cards in half an hour, getting through all of them properly by actually writing down and actually marking them, that's when you've got to a very good level of progress, and that's a level that you don't really need to exceed to get any faster. You get faster by doing a lot of intentional practice, and that's what you need to do for pretty much every subject that you have at GCSE or A level. And so this idea of progressive overload is the final strategy that I have for you. We've covered understanding content well, memorizing content well, and getting faster at memorizing and doing it more effectively by progressive overload. So yeah, that's all the advice that I have for this video. If you did find it useful, I've got a Discord down below in my description. But before then, I'll see you in the next video.